Why does Melbourne have one of the world's best skylines? And no, it's not what you think. It's not the biggest, not the tallest, not the most famous. And yet somehow it keeps beating cities that are. All of a sudden, Melbourne consistently ranks as one of the best in the world. Modern, dense, striking, and incredibly photogenic from almost every angle. This entire skyline is basically brand new. So what's going on here? How did Melbourne quietly make this happen, and so quickly? Because what you're looking at here shouldn't really exist like this. This skyline works for key reasons most cities never quite figure out. And once you see them hiding in plain sight, you'll start noticing why other skylines don't quite feel the same. I'm also going to show you the towers that define this city skyline and the panoramas hiding in plain sight that make it unforgettable. Let's break it down. For centuries, cities showed status, ambition, and power through height. Today, that role belongs to skyscrapers. A skyline is identity. New York, Hong Kong, Dubai, Shanghai. Many cities have the gift of a breathtaking natural setting, but this isn't about the setting. This is about the skyline, the buildings, the density, the composition. Because when you do this, Melbourne stands tall. And you know, people care about this a lot. Skylines divide opinion. Some love them, some hate them. People debate them like sports teams. Entire online communities obsess over them. Which one's better? Crane counts, construction, rankings. And Melbourne? It's right in the middle of that global conversation. Most of Melbourne's skyline is brand new. It isn't a century old like New York or Chicago. Most of it didn't exist even 20 years ago. Here's a view of the city from the suburb of Williamstown in the early 2000s, and here it is today. Over this time, Melbourne has boomed in business, tourism, and a global education hub, all while remaining one of the world's most livable cities. Massive population growth has come with it. But what's surprising is what this actual skyline is. It might look like it's all business, but most of these towers are residential. Melbourne isn't just growing up for work, it's growing for living. And pretty much all of this has happened here, the downtown central business district, Docklands on the western edge, and South Bank just over the Yarra River, an area roughly 2.5 kilometres wide by 2.5 kilometres long. And what's remarkable is how dense and vertical this area has suddenly become. It wasn't always like this. The CBD was once dominated by offices, empty after dark. Docklands and South Bank were just a blight of industrial buildings, warehouses and factories. Then, from the early 2000s, a massive development boom reshaped it completely, led by apartments and the lure of inner city living. Make sure you hit subscribe. I've got plenty more like this coming. Melbourne's population has risen dramatically, now over 5.5 million people. But the real story is the inner city. Over 200,000 people now live here. It's not suburban sprawl, it's vertical growth. One of the fastest inner city population increases anywhere in the Western world. To put that in perspective, Australia's population density is about 4 people per square kilometre. Parts of central Melbourne, over 42,000. Easily the highest anywhere in Australia. So what you're really looking at here isn't just a skyline, it's one of the densest residential cores in the Western world. And a huge driver of this? Students. Melbourne is one of the largest student populations in the world, and many of them are living and studying here in the inner city, at unis such as RMIT and Melbourne Uni. In some parts of the city centre, students make up over half of the population. That's fuel for apartments, fuel for density, and fuel for the skyline. And compared to Sydney, it's historically been easier to build here. Cheaper land, less restrictive planning, faster approvals, strong demand. So more towers get built. Most skylines are built for work. Melbourne is built for living, which means a city that's heaving with activity day and night. And the skyline keeps on stretching. St Kilda Road and Kingsway pull towers south into a continuous corridor. South Yarra forms a distinct cluster nearby, and emerging neighbouring precincts like West Melbourne, Arden, South Melbourne and Fisherman's Bend. This creates depth, width, layers, vibrancy, more like Manhattan, Chicago and Toronto. Underneath it all, the Hoddle grid, the almost 200-year-old foundation of the city, wide streets, Large blocks, long sight lines. Towers don't merge into a wall. They stand apart, creating rhythm and drama. Melbourne has fortunately kept much of its past. Laneways and heritage buildings are the civic anchors. These beautiful old buildings aren't visible necessarily on the skyline, but they form its foundation. Historically, height here was tightly controlled. For decades, buildings were capped at 40 metres, dictated by the length of a fire ladder. That was until 1958, when ICI House broke that limit, and everything changed. Fast forward to today, and these iconic towers is where Melbourne really separates itself. The Rialto, now 40 years old, believe it or not, looks like it was built yesterday. 120 Collins Street, Melbourne's modern-day Chrysler building. To the newer apartment towers, Australia 108, Australia's only true super tall, and Eureka next door. Premier Tower, a stunner, inspired by Beyonce's silhouette from her Ghost song. Aurora, a shimmering blue masterpiece. EQ Tower and Swanston Central. And here's Collins Arch, aka the Pants Scraper. Sapphire by the Gardens, bookending the top of the city. 380 Lonsdale. And here's Marina Tower, bending in Docklands. And the William Barak Building. Each of these towers adds something different. Shape, identity, contrast. And you can see Melbourne leans into dark glass and colours, reflecting the bluestone the city's built on. More depth, more drama. Many towers are slender, so the skyline feels elegant, not heavy. And unlike many cities, Melbourne has fewer balconies, which keeps the skyline cleaner, sharper, cohesive. This didn't happen by accident. There are rules, government, aviation, and shadowing controls, but Melbourne has chosen to build a truly breathtaking skyline, which at night time transforms into this. Lighting, colour, reflection, a showstopper. The lay of the land amplifies everything. The geography is largely flat. The Yarra River cuts through. Port Phillip Bay and Albert Park Lake open the horizon. Distant hills beyond. And with the constantly changing weather, no two views are the same. But here's something most people don't realise. Most cities have one defining skyline view, but Melbourne has dozens. Just ask a local and they'll proudly rank their favourites for you. Drive along CityLink and you're suddenly surrounded by skyscrapers. From the Balti Bridge, one sweeping, unforgettable view. Layered, stretched and three-dimensional. Here's some skyline panoramas hiding in plain sight that I think make it unforgettable. To the east, there's Anderson Park in Hawthorn. Here from Box Hill. Burke's Lookout in the Dandenongs. Yarra Bend Park at Kew. The Chandler Highway. The suburbs of Doncaster and Balwyn. In the north, Flemington Racecourse, Kangaroo Ground, Essendon and Tullamarine Airport. To the west from Footscray and the Western Freeway at Sunshine. And to the south, Albert Park Lake, Brighton, Royal Melbourne Golf Club and South Yarra. What's your favourite spot? And this is the key, balance. No single dominant tower. Instead, layers, variation and clusters. Old and new together. Dense, not overwhelming. Complex, not chaotic. That balance is rare. And much of this didn't exist just 20 years ago, and yet it's become a defining icon of the city. Confident, modern, striking, unmistakably Melbourne. What do you think of this skyline? Is it one of the best in the world? Please subscribe and comment. Love to hear what you think. Plenty more stories like this coming soon.